Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. Today I am super excited to be down on the Gulf Coast with Kip McConnell. He has one of the best jobs in the horticulture industry. He's the guy that seeks out new plants for the Southern Living Plant Collection. Kip, can you introduce yourself? And
Thank you, Jim. I'm great that you've come down to see us to talk about some of these great new plants. As he said, I'm Kip McConnell. I work with Plant Development Services, and one of my jobs here is to find new plants for the Southern Living Plant Collection. And we're going to look at a couple of them today, but I've got a great history in the industry. I have a lot of different jobs that I think has helped prepare me for what I do now. I've worked at botanical gardens, I've worked as a grower, I've worked at selling nursery supplies. So I've been on many different ends of the nursery industry. So I think that's helped me understand, what plants work, how they work as with a grower and with a consumer. So again, excited to be here.
Yeah, and that's it. You're talking about the growers and the consumers. That's an important component to how you go about selecting the plants, right? It has to work for both.
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't just have, a nice beautiful plant, because a lot of those times those are very hard to grow. So we're looking for plants that a grower can be successful with and grow a nice beautiful plant, and a consumer can have luck with in their garden. Something that's going to work well, it's going to give them the beauty they want, but the low maintenance and the ease of care too. So we're always looking for all of those different aspects to make it successful.
Okay, as you're out looking for new pieces, how much of it, so it's probably some university, some dedicated breeder like Buddy Lee or Bobby Green, who I'm interviewing as well. And then how else?
You would be amazed at all the different areas. Again, those that you mentioned, we work with universities. Mm-hmm. We have our own breeding, as in Buddy Lee, that works for us, but we have a lot of other independent breeders that know us and we deal with. We also have connections overseas.
Right.
So we have a partner in Europe, and then we also work with people literally all over the world, Japan, New Zealand, Australia, and we're always getting, trial plants in from, everywhere, and we bring them here, we trial them, we send them to other areas because not everything grows on the Gulf Coast. But again, we're getting plants from just multiple different locations, and it's great to see all the diversity that's out there, and we're trying to bring the best ones to the consumer for Southern Living.
So let's get started on some plants.
All right.
We're in an ocean of gold. Tell us about this one.
Jim, this is one of our newest releases. It's called Touch of Gold Holly. It's a really nice, low, compact plant. Only gets to about 2 to 2.5 feet tall by about 3 foot wide. Responds really well to pruning as a young plant, so it gets to be a really nice, tight habit. Really great for a little bit more, formal applications. Doesn't get big and rangy like some other yellow plants that you see in the garden. We love it because it's evergreen. It's very tough, easy for consumers to grow, easy for growers to grow, as you can see. And it gives that bright yellow gold color for the landscape. And I think a lot of people have discovered that, foliage color lasts a lot longer than blooms do. And so we see more and more of the foliage color plants entering into the garden because consumers see that, at their neighbor's yard or down the street, and they go, oh, I want one of those. So this is one of those new plants, and it has a little bit different look, but I think it still gives you that bright color, and it's a lot of great applications for it.
Yeah, and this is another one of Pat McCracken's finds, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, I had him on one of my 5 plant videos. You guys are going to see the theme of this series is how interconnected the horticulture business can be. Places that I visit and people that I talk to lead me to the next step and the next step and things that you guys have seen on my channel before. So we're going to hop around and take a look at some other pieces. So Kip, tell me what the real star of the Southern Living Plant Collection has been for the last few years.
Well, Jim, it's not even close. This Sunshine Ligustrum has been just blowing away all the records we have for sales and plants. Consumers see this gorgeous plant and they just can't help but buy it. And the other great thing about it, it's easy. You can put it in many different soil conditions, exposures, everything. It loves the full sun. It gets this super color in the full sun. And pretty much anybody can grow it. It takes well to pruning. You can, trim it into pyramids, balls, whatever you want. It looks great. Again, it's just like a bulletproof plant with this amazing color. It's easy for growers to grow, easy for consumers to have in their garden. So it's a big win.
Right. Yeah. This I've got 2 of them in my landscape that my viewers see constantly, and I have mine pruned as little pyramids. But you're right, I see them pruned as little balls.
Correct.
It just doesn't mean do whatever you want to do.
Exactly.
To it. You can probably hard reset it.
And they do their own advertising, because you can drive through a neighborhood
right.
and you're not going to miss it in a landscape. And people will see that and they'll go, "What is that?" And they'll go find it at the garden center. So it's been a great plant.
And you got that same combo I have kind of going on with the Laura Petalum.
Yeah,
right
again, that contrast there with the dark foliage and the gold, man, this really stands out as well in the landscape.
Yeah. So Kip's going to tell us about the 4 Gardenia varieties in the Southern Living Plant Collection, 2 newer ones.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, so Jim, gardenias are the quintessential ornamental plant. I mean, even the most novice gardener has heard of a gardenia.
Right.
Of course, the fragrance, everybody is looking for that beautiful gardenia fragrance.
Yep.
First one we're going to talk about is Gardenia Jubilation. So it has more of the traditional, look and bloom that people think when they think gardenias.
Right.
It's a bigger double white bloom, really fragrant. This one grows bigger than the rest. It gets to about 5 feet tall. But I mean, a really great, tough, easy to grow plant. And of course, it just loads up in the spring with these blooms. But then it reblooms through the summer, which is an important aspect that we've tried to get into all of our new gardenias, is a reblooming. So you don't just get that one time in the late spring. It continues to bloom through the summer. Of course, the next one we have is Gardenia Foolproof. So it's a relatively new variety that we've put out. The reason we use that name is, as we talked about before, we want to make things easy for growers. Well, some gardenias have root issues. This one does not. This one is foolproof. It's so easy to grow. It has a real dwarf habit. Again, double white blooms, so it's a little bit smaller, only going to get to about 3 feet tall. So it gives you, different ways to use in the landscape.
Right, and it has the double.
It does. Double white flower on that. Again, the great fragrance.
Yeah.
So the next 2 are even more unique. We have another dwarf that's called Scent Amazing. And of course, great fragrance from the name. It has a single white bloom, but really dwarf. Only going to be about 2 feet, rounded habit on it, dark green foliage. Again, another use for a gardenia, which we can't have too many gardenias in the landscape. We love the gardenias.
Right.
And then, go ahead.
Before you move on to Diamond Spire, they're truly unique.
Yes.
Yeah, the Scent Amazing I've had in my garden for about 18 months, and if it's warm outside, that thing has a flower on it. So people will look at that single flower and think negatively about it. That thing will outbloom. I'll put it next to any other variety. It blooms and blooms and blooms in my landscape.
And like I said before, that reblooming aspect, people don't realize how great it is. And it really is showy, because it won't cover up like it does in the spring, but you'll have white blooms scattered all over. It's very attractive and very fragrant. So that's part of all of them that are in the collection.
Right.
All right, so like you mentioned, the super unique one, the brand new, newest one in the collection is Gardenia Diamond Spire. So it grows up with a narrow habit. So it doesn't get wide like most gardenias. The leaf is rounded and oval with a little waviness and super shiny dark green. So just the foliage and the habit of that plant is amazing. And then you get the single white blooms. Covers up in the spring, beautiful, gorgeous. But throughout the season, you get those white blooms up and down. So great in the landscape, but also great for containers where you want that upright habit in a container, as a mixed container or whatever you're doing, by your front door, wherever you get a pretty sunny, part sun location. Excellent new gardenia.
Right, and all of these new homes seem to have quirky little narrow spots here and there. So upright, narrow plants.
They're popular now, and that one fits the bill, plus it blooms, and a lot of the other narrow ones don't bloom.
There's 2 new Distillium in the Southern Living Plant Collection. You guys have seen them on my channel. I have both of these planted in my landscape. They're doing great. Tell me about them.
Well, Jim, with Distillium, there have been a few that have been on the market. It really took off, and I think the main reason it did is because landscapers loved it, because it's a tough plant. Right. You plant that, and it's going to live. It's going to grow, and it's pretty much easy for anybody in any landscape situation. Right. So we decided, look, we think they're great plants, but we want something unique. So that's what we did with our breeding, is came up with 2 that we feel like are different. Right. And the one that I think is the most different is called Distillium Jewel Box. Yeah. You can see the leaf is nice and small, has a finer texture than most of the ones out there.
Yeah.
Very dwarf, only going to be about 2.5 feet.
Yeah.
But it gives you a whole different texture and look in that Distilleum category with the same toughness, the same landscape uses you can do. And it's a good replacement for things like boxwood in areas where people are having issues with boxwood.
Right.
This, has a similar look. It takes well to pruning if you want to shape it. So again, really unique, different version from Distilleum that we're really excited about.
One thing we were talking about on this one is it does express the flowers. Distilleum they're flowering plants, but typically the flowers are right along the stems and they're not super showy. This one actually, in my landscape in the early spring, was red along the stems.
Yeah, it is. When you get a mass planting of this and you see that bloom, I mean, it is showy. I mean, it's, for a couple of weeks in the spring, but for an evergreen plant like this to have that color then, that's nice to have.
Right, and the main difference that I see in this one versus just every other variety is the internodes between the leaves. That's the distance between the leaves on the stems. The leaves are super close together. They're just packed so tight that it just, even as a small plant that's newly planted in that container, it looks full.
Yeah, it does. It does have a different look than the others.
Yeah.
So the next one is called Caston Bronze, and just from the name you can imagine the new growth on this plant is spectacular. Now this group is just now starting to show a little color, but I mean in a couple of weeks it'll have this bronzy maroon color on the top of these plants that's really attractive. I mean, you can see a little bit on the tips of these just starting to come out. But again, that was when we were picking this, we felt like it had one of the best colors of any of the Distilleum. And every time you prune this and it flushes, you get that color.
Right.
So it's something that, and it likes to be pruned. You can shape it and keep it in your yard. It's a little bit bigger. It's going to be, maybe 4.5 feet, maybe 5. But again, tough plant, easy for anybody to grow. It gives you that nice, color addition to it.
Yeah, for those of you who have space for this plant, and you're not trying to put it in a spot where you're going to have to prune on it all the time, these branches will come up on this and then they'll weep down. The next branch will come up and weep down, and it really becomes a beautiful kind of loose form cascading plant if you plant it with a space that will allow you to do that. And it's quite beautiful in its kind of natural form like that.
Yeah, it does, and it gives that leaf color as well. So it's got a lot of positives about it. So these two we felt like were great introductions for Southern Living for our first Distilleums. We have more coming, but these I think are really unique. Okay, everybody, I wanted to kind of introduce two of our newest releases for the Encore Azalea brand. So within Plant Development Services, we have more than just one brand, and Encore was our original brand. That was the first branding we did with patented plants, and it's been super successful. We have currently 33 varieties in the Encore collection. These are the two newest, and we're really excited about them because we see a lot of azaleas, so we really try to pick the unique ones and things that really are different from what's on the market. So the first one is Autumn Majesty. So it's this double purple flower, and you can see it's starting to bloom now, but it covers up, as many as 3 times a year with these beautiful double purple flowers. Again, a great plant, compact. Most of what we do now is more compact, going to be about 3.5 feet tall. But again, a great new Encore. The bloom power on this is amazing. And then the other one we have is our, we're going into more bicolor blooms. So this one's called Starburst, and I really love the way this looks. You can see the stripes in the leaf, so it's white with a pink stripe. Really showy, really gives you a different look in the garden. And these plants will, again, cover up 2 or 3 times a year. We love that, that light pastel coloration with it. So, again, you can get different looks with different varieties in the Encore collection. Again, another dwarf, both of them very cold hardy, zone 6A. That's another thing we're trying to put into Encore so we can get them into other areas that are a little colder climates.
We could do one more and one more and one more because there's plenty to choose. There's plenty to choose from, especially at this at the main nursery. My favorite plant in the collection is probably soft caress mahonia. So we'll finish with this one. Tell everybody why this is such a great versatile plant.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites too. So we're always looking for shade plants. So this is a shade plant. Very tough. It'll take dry shade, a lot of different situations in the shade. It's a great container plant too, and that's something that people forget because they always have something under their porch or in a shady area, and they need something for a container. And it's got a great name, Soft Caress. And the reason I say that is everybody that comes to this plant, the first thing they want to do is this.
Yeah, right.
And you can't do that with most Mahonias.
No, you can't. They bite back.
So it really is soft to the touch. It really has a nice texture. Almost looks like a miniature palm or a fern.
It does. Yeah.
So it's got a really great texture and look to it. And again, it's so tough. I mean, once you plant this, it's going to be beautiful forever. I mean, it's just a great plant. Doesn't get very big. Gets maybe 3 to 4 feet. About 3 to 4 feet wide, but it's just got this real layered look to it. Again, just a whole different look for a shade garden, and it's a must-have for people.
Yeah, and it's got this blue-green hue to it. It worked great in a Japanese garden. It's just a perfect plant for that. It like screams that. And then, of course, we get flowers on this plant at a time of year when nothing else in the garden is blooming. So this will, for me, up in North Carolina, start blooming sometime in December. I'll get color on them, and I'll get color on and off right through early to mid-spring.
And it's a bright yellow, which really contrasts with this dark green. I mean, they're really pretty. Yeah. They're not huge flowers like some of the other Mahonias, but they're perfect for this plant, the size, the look. So, again, like I said, it's a must-have for a shade garden.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's all the plants we're going to cover in this. Again, there's a ton of pieces in the Southern Living plant collection. Real quickly before we wrap this up, why would someone choose to seek out Southern Living plant collection pieces and Encore Azaleas?
Jim, I really appreciate you coming here and giving us the opportunity to show some of these great plants. What I always tell people is what we look for with the plants that we release in Southern Living is something that we know is going to do for your area, going to do for your situation, is going to add beauty to your garden and make it easy for you to be successful. Right. And that's what we want gardeners to do. We want them to have, something that they can enjoy and be successful with, not something that they're going to fail with. So that's what, one of our main criteria in these plants that we looked at today and everything that we do. Right. We try to make that happen. And the same with Encore Azaleas too. We're trying to get more unique colors and sizes and cold hardiness. We want people to be successful and have that extended bloom with an azalea. So we do that in everything we do, and I hope we're able to show that to people today.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much again, Kip. Thanks everybody for watching. I'm really, I hope you guys are enjoying these videos, just seeing different folks in horticulture. Kip has a great job and a much better Southern accent than I have. So thank you guys for watching.